All right, so here we go. Um, for everybody tuning in, this is Tyrone. I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Tyrone Keys. I have the Money Changes Everything channel here on YouTube, and we're on a couple of other places as well, but primarily on YouTube. And we focus on all of those traditional asset classes like real estate, stocks, even the precious metals piece. We look at all that from the standpoint of politics, policy, economics. I used to be a lobbyist for Verizon Communications, so I know how that policy piece affects money, and our whole mission is just to bring that to people, educate them, and have people achieve financial independence. And that is something that me and you guys over here
Oh yeah,
are passionate about.
I love
So
all that. Yeah, I always it's funny that you say financial independence because I always call it financial freedom, which is the same thing, but it's just funny that you say that. Just in case any of your viewers are watching, my name's Adam. I run True Perception Investments on YouTube. It is exclusively crypto and digital assets over there. So it's, the other page of the book. I think that was what was interested me the most when I connected with you was the fact that I went and checked out your videos and it's like, this guy's talking about the same stuff we're talking about, but just
right.
from a different perspective, and I think it's important that, diversification is important for one. I mean, you know that. And, I'm 100% in crypto. Most advisors right now, which for the record, I am not. So don't do anything based on anything you hear or see on my channel, people. You would be making a poor decision. Do your own research. Only in America do we have to say that when we record these things, by the way.
Right.
But I lost train of my thought. But yeah, man, it's talking about diversification with, oh yeah, most advisors would tell you about 5% right now. That's like the average that these people are recommending, and I'm probably 95% in crypto at this point. It wasn't like a wealth management choice or anything for me though. This was kind of a got some spare change, let's level up real quick type thing. But yeah,
Hey, look, the digital asset piece, and this is a good, I'm glad we're collaborating because the digital asset piece is one that I have not really, I don't have anything in digital assets. So we're both sides of the scale here. And, got a lot of questions about it. I do see the different central banks moving in that direction. Now, I think they want to do it for control reasons and for reasons around being able to spend as much money as they want, with little accountability. Look at if you look at
and they
our
like to do
language
that
here.
anyway.
Exactly, exactly. But these guys don't even speak that. I haven't heard them use the term billion in over a year. It's
Yeah.
all trillions
Oh yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I think I
and
saw today that the global debt is like $277 trillion or something like that.
mind blowing,
Like
absolutely
that's
mind
a lot of
blowing.
debt,
Yeah, it is. It
especially for
is.
people like us. You hear those kind of, you're like,
Right. It once people can't even really conceptualize, what a million is.
oh yeah,
But what I try to do is I always give people this characterization of it. So if you wanted to count from 1 to 1 billion, it would take you 30 years if you
yeah,
use like 1 second to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
count off each number. But if you wanted to count from 1 to 1 trillion, it would take you 30,000
yeah.
years. Okay. So
Yeah, because it's 1,000 billions,
it's crazy.
which makes
Okay.
it what, a million millions? Is that how that
Is
works?
that it? Is that it? You might be right.
I think that's how it works. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that, guys.
Once it gets up past a certain level, humans have a tough time,
Oh yeah.
dealing with the numbers. And if you look at debtclock.org right now,
Like,
every taxpayer is on the hook for $222,000
yep.
of that debt. So that's one of the things that we pay attention to is how to how to work within the rules to minimize that tax burden.
Mm.
Because if you can't do that, then you're you're going to have your nest egg really whittled away
Oh yeah.
big time. So
If you
we
even make
emphasize.
it to getting a nest egg, I think that's a
Right.
problem a lot of people are suffering from now, is just like savings. They're non-existent for most people at this point, and I mean, a lot of people still have savings, but it's when I'm out and about talking to, I'm in my mid 30s. So most of my buddies are, 25 to 50, something like that. And
Mhm.
some of them, I mean, been doing the same thing their whole life, have decent positions, making okay money, and nothing saved, and a lot of that comes down to like lifestyle and stuff too. Though, I mean,
Yeah.
I think majority of people tend to live slightly outside their means. I have a buddy of mine who's his dad actually just passed away not all that long ago, but he used to tell me about how his parents, they would go, I believe they went on a cruise every year. I think that's what it was. But
Okay.
because they valued that experience every year, they didn't eat steak. And it wasn't
Okay.
that they didn't like steak, but they just say, every $20, $30, $40 steak dinner that we have, we're a portion of the way to our vacation. So it's like, if we just cut those out, we know we could go. I always thought that was an interesting way of looking at it. I always get like if you go to 7-Eleven and you sign up on their thing, it's like 3 cents off of every gallon. And for years, I never did fuel rewards. And now I have like fuel rewards at any gas station you go to, because you see at the end of the year, you're like, I saved a couple $100.
That's right.
And
That's
it's
right.
like, if you got a couple things like that going for you, I mean,
Yeah.
that turns into extra money. And well, it's not extra, you just still have it. But
Yeah. I live by my Dunkin' Donuts rewards app. Okay. Because you go in there and every few trips you get something for free.
yeah,
So that's basically where we are. Like most people, unfortunately, can't put together $1,000 cash to address an emergency here in America.
oh yeah,
Okay, and this is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But for some strange reason, I think it has a lot to do with commercialization of everything, messaging around marketing. That forever we've been sold this bill of goods that you've got to fit into this type of box,
mm,
and it takes a lot of money to do. Sex in the City, that whole thing, when that show was on,
oh yeah,
somebody they broke it down and said, this is how much these ladies would actually need to be making
to
in
live like
order
that.
to live this lifestyle
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
New
yeah.
York City. Okay. And it was astronomical. Okay.
Especially
So
up there in the city, man. It's ooh.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
was reading a while back how I don't know, did they ever finish the train that runs from like Baltimore to New York City? Yeah, wasn't that a thing they were?
no, that was well, they do have an Amtrak that goes up there. It's a high-speed Amtrak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Supposed to only
They
take
do
a
have
few
that.
hours, right?
Yeah, they do have that.
I
They
thought
were
that
talking.
was interesting because you could live in Baltimore where the wages are considerably lower than New York City, and then
Right.
go to New York. I mean, I'm sure it's still a pretty hell of a commute at that point still, but it's interesting.
Hey, it might be worth it for some,
Depending
young
on the
man or young
position.
woman starting out. Yeah, it might be worth it. But yeah, so one of the questions I had, because I know that again that we're light on crypto, on money changes everything. So I know one of the questions that I had was around this whole thing where we see the Federal Reserve Bank kind of dipping their toe into it, with the what is it, the central bank digital currencies.
CBDCs.
Okay,
Yep.
so where do you see this going? I mean, at the end of the day, we've got Bitcoin and others out there.
Mhm.
We got the CBDCs coming up. We got other countries doing their thing. 10 years from now, what do you think this is going to look like?
I think, this is always a fun one because I go back and forth in my own mind about this stuff all the time. But 10 years, I mean, and I only say this, I try to be conservative with these timelines, but the reality of it is, I don't know how familiar you are with like the singularity theory and all that. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's happening, but the exponential increase in advancement is very apparent these days, and like it's outperforming the human mind. I mean, our technology is evolving way faster now. As you look at what, I don't know if you've seen I don't know what it's called. Is it called The Social Experiment or what something, whatever it's called on Netflix? It's about all the social media, how it's engineered to get people like locked in and like
Oh
freaking.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really, it's an interesting documentary, but they talk about that. But anyway, without getting too far out there, the rate of everything it tends to be faster than anybody's estimating these days. I've noticed. Looking at inflation right now, it's way beyond any projections. Cell phones. I mean, 2009, I got my first iPhone, and I mean, you remember that thing didn't do hardly anything. It
Right.
crashed, froze. Um, and just seeing the global effort. So one of the things about CBDCs that was interesting, and I touched on this briefly when you and I spoke on the phone, um, the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlement, all these are like the guys, and girls, whatever, but those are the heavy hitters. The policies seem to start up there. And I noticed with all the going green, that's a big thing globally right now. And I think it's great. I mean, I do, if you don't have to waste a bunch of energy and pollute, I'm all for that.
Right.
I don't think there's a reason. I don't get the blowback, honestly. I really don't. But plus, it's innovative. New technologies, new jobs, all that, new degrees, whatever.
New opportunities. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. They were really pounding the table about that. They kind of came after Bitcoin got under a lot of scrutiny because of
Right.
the power consumption. I mean, I think the Bitcoin network now consumes more power on an annual basis than Norway.
Wow.
It's pretty far up there. Now they do say that they use some runoff electricity that tends to go to waste, a lot of them. So there's some back and forth in that discussion too. But I think because they are pushing that aspect, and then there's a guy named Augustus Carsons who he's one of those guys, him and Christine Lagarde and some of these other people that work with these central banks. Like when they talk, I always listen
Mm-hmm.
because those people, I mean, they're calm, cool, and collective, and they ain't playing, So,
Right.
but he was even saying it plays into the control thing. And he said, right now when we issue stimulus and we issue it in some sort of cash, national currency, whatever that means, we have no control over John Doe, going and paying his bills, feeding his children, or going and scoring a bag of dope on the corner somewhere.
Right.
Not to jump to the extreme, but that's one of
Yeah.
the things, and he was saying that with central bank digital currencies, these are actually programmable. They can be totally frozen in your wallets and stuff. And then, like I said to you, I'm a firm believer. And by believer, I'm not saying supporter, but I'm a firm believer that UBI is around the corner for us. I really think it's going to come. And I think when it does, they're going to have these, and they're going to use CBDCs for that because it's going to be the only way they can really control it. And then I think I've been reading a lot on these negative interest rates, and that's going to be another way they combat their debt. Is if you don't spend your money, you're going to lose it. And I was trying to explain to somebody the other day, there's a part of that makes sense to me. A lot of people don't understand the term, and you probably do, how wealth is generated by spending money. It's not generated by saving it. The velocity of money.
Velocity of money. Exactly.
A lot of people don't understand that stuff, and it kind of plays into that. But like you said, at the same time, you just see Big Brother there. Just there's a lot of room for and I'm not going like anti-state or anything, but there's a lot of room. Right now, if I wanted to put cash under my mattress and save it for a rainy day, I can. That also does at large contribute to inflation at times, though, is the fact that people don't spend their money. I read an article like 5 years ago. They said China held enough cash reserves in USD that if they were to, symbolically light it all on fire, it would have crashed our economy. Just based on, I mean, it wouldn't really have affected us because, whatever, but just from like the numbers value, that's how much like stockpiles of cash there were, that if it was destroyed, it would just offset the whole system, and it's stuff like that's interesting.
No doubt, man. I watched this report. It was out of China, and they ran this experiment where they did state-backed crypto, kind of UBI, but it was for one part of one province. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they had this so refined that you couldn't spend it outside of a certain geographic area, because their whole thinking was, we want to see if we can stimulate the economy of a certain geographic area.
Yeah, just inject it
And
strategically or something. Yeah, it's interesting.
it was very interesting, and it just showed you the the capabilities that will be able to be employed with these CBDCs. And the other thing, China, if you look at them with their uh, social credit score,
Yeah.
they've done a lot with combining those two things. And man, they've got total control. Their social credit score will
It's
even get
scary, man.
it will gig you for jaywalking.
Mhm.
Okay. And just so for the folks that may not know, you get too many negative points on that social credit score, and you can't rent an apartment. You can't catch a commuter train. You can't catch a flight.
Yep.
Okay. So they really restrict you unless you play ball. They restrict your financial ability to move around the world and function unless you play ball.
Yeah, they're real big on like the authoritarian vibes over there. I was just talking to, it might even been you that said, I don't remember who said this the other day. Somebody was saying everybody calls China a communist country. He's like, but I don't consider them communist. He's like, they're authoritarian, man. He's like, I don't see any functional communism, which communism has a tendency to not function, but it's
Right, right.
at its
But
heart, it doesn't really look like that over there at all. It's kind of like, wow.
it is. I mean, you look at Jack Ma and that whole situation,
Yeah,
and
where's he at?
I think he's alive,
Yeah, but I
but
mean, I haven't heard that guy was all over the
no,
internet not that long ago.
he was all over the place, and they have shut him down.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know if you've ever read that book, 48 Laws of Power. Okay. So they say he violated that one rule: never outshine the master.
Yeah.
Z is obviously the neo Mao over there, and he will not be challenged. And this guy Ma got a little bit too big for his britches, and they took care of him. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you can't outshine and put the big guy in your shadow. That's a surefire way to get in trouble, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in a position of power.
Exactly.
That's an interesting
So,
book too, man. I found that pretty interesting.
I
When I
still
was
have a
doing
copy around here somewhere.
when I helped start up the last company I worked for, that was one of the books I was reading at that time, and it's pretty interesting in there.
Yeah, yeah. For anyone who hasn't checked that out, 48 Laws of Power, you gotta check it out. You gotta read it. It's a very fascinating book. And
He
if
wrote
you have,
another one too. What was the other one?
yeah.
48 Laws of Seduction or something like that.
That was it. That
Yeah,
was it. Yeah.
I read that one too, and that one was interesting. It was kind of like it was weird. Those books, I think they're fantastic, but they made the way my mind was working when I was reading some of that, I started to feel like I'm being manipulative right now in a way. I mean, but that's it's like the Game of Thrones type thing,
Right.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. He was on Game of Thrones before most people knew about it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that whole Machiavellian kind of vibe, that's where he's coming from. Definitely.
Power moves, man.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I personally believe, and I've said it on the channel many times, that I believe the dollar is going to lose its reserve currency status by the early 2030s. With the way things are going, I think that's exactly how it's going to go down. And in a world where the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, what do you see the role of cryptos playing?
And see, that's where things get crazy for me. Is so many. I mean, if you get on with some Bitcoin maxis, they'll be real quick to tell you that Bitcoin is going to be the global reserve currency, which I don't buy that for 1 second personally. You don't know who the creators were. It's never been divulged. I think Satoshi Nakamoto was not a single entity whatsoever. I do not believe. I refer to him as the group. That's where my whole theory takes me. And people are like, okay, well, who's in the group? And I'm like, if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be living a way different life probably.
Right.
It is interesting though, because now you're having like these stable coins that are out in crypto. There's Tether, there's USDC, which is through Circle, which is about to become the biggest stable coin on the planet. At least they're trying to. They just went public. And what's interesting about a stable coin is it's pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar.
Okay.
So that's how it functions. They're supposed to hold enough in their reserves to actually match it 1-to-1 at all times. A lot of scrutiny that goes around with that. A lot of these companies aren't getting audited properly. They have like 13 employees on LinkedIn and they're stationed in Hong Kong, all that kind of stuff goes on. But one of the things that I have found interesting is they've begun creating what are referred to as algorithmic stable coins. So these stable coins essentially try to stay as close to the dollar as they can, but they kind of fluctuate depending upon what's going on in the market. Okay. And none of them have been super successful yet, to my knowledge anyway. All the ones I've looked into, I wouldn't put my money there because it isn't stable enough for me to call a stable coin.
Gotcha.
I think that those potentially could have a role. You'd have to have some sort of like global conglomerate. Like you'd have to get like the G7 and the G20 and all those people would have to come together and agree, which who knows if that ever happens. I could see it splitting in a couple different directions maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a big, I've told you I'm a big XRP guy. I got to bring it on anytime I get on camera, but they're referred to as the banker's coin. They're under a big lawsuit. I mean, you can Google their CEO and CTO and all of them. They're constantly in the company of central bankers around the world, tons of them. They're at all these conventions. Ripple does not operate like a Bitcoin, like an Ethereum. Its sole purpose originally was to work for the banks for cross-border payments, remittances. It has near instant settlement. It takes 3 to 5 seconds to settle, no matter where it is around the globe. The security on the ledger it's built on is really intense. Now, a lot of people think XRP could be pegged to gold one day. That's Bitcoin could be pegged to gold. I don't know if I see that. I see gold. Gold is always going to be a store of value. I told you that's all I'm buying right now. Actually, every time I have an extra couple bucks, which tokenized gold allows me to invest that way, which I think is awesome. But then you get into the whole Australia thing and all that. We'll leave that for another video. But I don't know, man. Like, as far as I often wonder, the decentralization or the decentralized nature of crypto, I guess would be the better way of saying it, really kind of makes me wonder sometimes, like, could we just see the loss of global reserve currencies altogether potentially?
I think
like a neutral, because it's been heavily in the United States' favor as far as international trade and all that stuff goes.
Right.
The euro had a chance to disrupt that. China was very bullish on the euro, very, very bullish. Of course, for multiple reasons, that did not work out. The yuan is also a pretty potent currency. I mean, China's currency holds weight in a lot of places.
Right.
And
more and more places every day too.
Oh yeah, per unit, it's not as valuable as the dollar is as of right now. But I don't know that matters when it's infinite.
Right. Right.
It's like, but yeah, I don't know, man. With the digital age and everything going on, and here's the other thing: everything that I see in the future that could potentially happen is also going to depend largely on regulation, man.
That's true.
I mean, you look at the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, right now. Everybody thought he was the blockchain professor at MIT. So everybody thought he was going to come in. He's a very smart man. Everybody thought he was going to come in and like this was going to kind of smooth over. We were going to get some clarity, some regulatory framework like Britain, some of the EU has, where we can actually innovate safely without worrying about all these lawsuits. You can invest safely because there's a lot of scams in crypto, but what's messed people up more than that, like people who do their research and their due diligence anyway, is SEC enforcement actions.
Sure.
I mean, it just destroys investments,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the crypto.
Go ahead.
I think the crypto world is learning to fight back a little because if you look at the what happened with the infrastructure bill, they had some provisions in there that
we were heard in that.
Yeah,
definitely heard in that. That's the first time that I think the digital asset space held any weight in any like policy on the floor. Yeah.
I think I think that was the first time, but it will not be the last time. I think that it will just be refined from now on, and it'll get sharper and sharper. And they'll know how to fight these battles, not just in DC. Because the other thing is they're legislative battles, and that whole infrastructure thing is a legislative battle.
Oh yeah.
But the bigger battlefield is the regulatory
Oh yeah.
space, because you and I, let's say we're senators, we can come up with a bill, it takes 2 pages, but then when that thing is passed and it goes out into the regulatory landscape, oh man, that's when it turns into reams and reams of regulation. So to the extent that the crypto crowd can start to refine their messaging and
Oh
be
yeah.
effective at lobbying,
And see, that's the
it's
thing is Ripple, the company that created XRP, and anybody who's watching, the lawsuit is being sued for XRP being a security of Ripple.
okay.
It's not. They do have a control of a cryptographically sealed escrow. They don't control when it comes out and releases and all that, but they are the custodian of it, or well, partially anyway. So that's kind of where that whole thing's come from. I think there might be weight to it being sold as a security offering at one point in time. I don't think it's existing as a security now because, I mean, you can take XRP and buy equity in Ripple.
Okay.
You
Okay.
can't use a security to buy a security.
Right. Right.
You can't. It can't
Right.
happen. So
Right.
that's all. The regulatory thing. Now, I don't know if you saw the article I posted. It's a Forbes article. It said the crypto uprising that the SEC didn't see coming.
I saw that. Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
get I don't know if you read it. If you get a chance, check it out, man. That's all about the XRP army, man. And we have that lawsuit. The influencers on YouTube and Twitter and wherever else have came together. We couple million followers and subscribers. There's class action lawsuits that have like 20, 30,000 people involved now who are affected by the enforcement action. And I say we, I'm not solely responsible, nor did I really have any involvement in this part, but they have unearthed so many of these old videos of all these SEC officials completely contradicting what they're now saying in depositions, which is under oath, and all this stuff where this government watchdog has now actually launched an investigation for conflict of interest on all three of the former SEC chairs involved in the lawsuit.
Wow.
It filed it under the Freedom of Information Act, so that can tell you how serious that could be.
Yeah.
And then the judge yesterday, they were trying to have she ordered them 2 or 3 times to release all these documents regarding Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP, and they just keep refusing. They're not abiding to the judge. And so she told them that they will turn it all over to her. She's going to do an in-camera review in her chambers. And what that means is she'll do a personal review of all the sensitive information, and then she'll decide what's admissible in court and what won't be seen by anybody. Very similar to the OJ trial. Judge Ito had to do that because there was tapes of the one officer kind of like talking about his wife and a lot of racially charged stuff, and he pretty much decided that a lot of it wasn't relevant to the case, so we're going to strict that. And a very similar situation that's going on now, and that just happened yesterday, so it was kind of a pumped up moment for some of us that are invested in the asset. But yeah, the global reserve, I'm still stuck on that. It's so interesting, man, because Bitcoin is functionally anyway a store of value. I don't know what happens when it's all done, because it's only mineable to a certain point, and then the doesn't mine anymore, which is great. I mean, that's anti-inflation. It's deflationary by nature at that point if it's finite.
True.
So, and that's a big thing. Like most of the crypto assets that have a finite supply anyway, every transaction, and whether a transaction doesn't necessarily mean sale, that could be me transferring it to you, sending it to an exchange, wallet to wallet, whatever it is. They have what are called burns for every transaction, where it burns a small amount of the asset.
Okay.
And so when you have that finite supply and you have all these transactions just constantly going around the globe, that global supply very slowly. I mean, you can't really, it's not like tangible to watch it or anything, but it does very slowly. Because I think XRP, there's 100 billion of them, and that's it. So I think each transaction, it's interesting.
That is something that has always interested me, is the finite nature of it. And I guess if you look at,
Not all of it's like that. They do have coins that just pump nonstop.
okay,
They
okay,
do have even the stable coins. They just turn on the computer and shoot them out.
gotcha.
Now they're supposed to be backed by actual physical reserves, but then again, you're just getting into trust and all that kind of
Right.
stuff when it comes to that. So it's
So the XRP card, because you did a video about that.
oh yeah, man.
Okay, so give me a little bit more on that because I think I understand the concept. And if
Real
I'm
black
right,
card.
okay, yeah, because you were saying that it's got all that value stored on that card that you could tap into.
Yeah. So basically, there is a company, Global ID. Global ID was founded by Greg Kidd, who is an early investor in pretty much every major successful technology on the planet. If you go look up his portfolio, it's ridiculous. I think he had PayPal, Ripple. He did so many things. I'm actually going to look it up while I'm talking. But anyway, so what the Global ID platform is, it is based. I'm not going to worry about that. It's basically a digital wallet, not for currencies, but for all your identification. So I have my actual government issued ID is stored in there. You can put your social, your degrees. If you're in an area that requires a COVID passport, that can be uploaded to it. And then it's all verified. Like they made me verify my phone number. A lot of different things I have on there verified. You're tagging yourself, the bank accounts, your social medias, and all this. And what one of the really cool things about it is now when I log into my Uphold account, which is some people will call it exchange, it's more of a broker, but when you log into it, you no longer have to input your credentials because it's going to tap your Global ID and essentially say, is this person? And Global ID has all your information. It says yes. And what that does is it eliminates you from all these phishing attacks where you're constantly typing in form data where somebody can just snatch keystrokes and all that stuff. So there's that aspect of Global ID. They're the ones who actually put the card out, and then they're partnered with Uphold. That's where it's linked to. So what's really interesting about Uphold is, I'm gonna log in here real quick. As of right now, Uphold has several assets. I'm not going to waste our time reading all of them, but you have quite a few of the major cryptos on here. Let me see. Let me scroll down here. You have 46 different cryptos, 50 different equities. Now, these equities are purchased through there's a platform called Link2. It's LINQTO. You should check those out. I don't know if you're accredited or not, but if you or any of your viewers are, it's nothing but like unicorns and tech companies on there with price, $10,000 blocks, but really, really cool stuff on there. Like Coinbase was selling on there, I believe, for like $40 a share at one point when they went live on the market. I think it was $400. So it's a pretty nice jump in a matter of like a year or two that it was on there.
Yeah.
Especially when you're buying 10 grand at a time. I mean, you got a few of those blocks, you did well. So they have like, AMD, AT&T, Alibaba, Apple, all the big stuff, Citigroup, whatever. Then they have some utility tokens. There's like Orchid is a private internet thing, basic attention token, which is through the Brave browser. Brave browser blocks like all these ads. It doesn't track you. It saves you a bunch of bandwidth and time. And they actually pay you in crypto every month for using their service. It's pretty small, but for me, man, it's incentives.
Sure.
I'm not a fan of Google. So, it's like,
yeah, same here.
They also have stable coins, 27 different national currencies, and then 5 metals. You can buy, you can't buy legacy gold anymore. It's only that universal gold that I told you about.
Gotcha.
Which, just to give everybody a brief description of that, that is physical gold held in Australia, backed by the Australian government 1-to-1 per troy ounce per token. The difference is instead of being forced to spend $1,800 or whatever your minimum might be for gold, depending upon where you buy it, you can spend $1 at a time and invest in gold. So it kind of opens the door to people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's huge. Yeah, that's
huge. They're going to do a real estate too, man. That's something. There's a blockchain Algorand, which is ALGORAND. Check them out. They are working very hard to tokenize real estate. And when that happens, man, you get these multi-billion-dollar projects and you just throw these tokens out there for people to be able to invest in it. And I mean, you could have $5 and invest in the next resort wherever, and I think it's going to be really exciting when that happens. We'll see if it makes it. They've been trying for about 5 years with the real estate. They're running into all kinds of issues. It's usually regulatory. It's usually
Right.
just not wanting to sign off on it,
Right.
So,
But you know what? That whole piece, as you get as you get the younger folk that graduate from these colleges and start to get into these agencies, that stuff kind of,
oh, yeah.
makes more sense to them
Oh,
at
yeah.
that point. And I'm going to tell you, man, this whole thing is just like what we saw in like the midnight. I remember it like it was yesterday. 96, the Telecom Act of 96 is when that whole internet piece just exploded.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They
And
tried to get rid of
off
the internet, man. A lot of people don't remember. They tried to get rid of the internet for a while there. Big
yeah,
time.
nobody understood it. They,
Yeah.
And they wanted to rely on this old paradigm. But where we're at now with money is where we were in the early to mid 90s with the internet. And people have really got to pay attention, man. That's why I'm so glad that you and I are doing this, because
Yeah.
people have got to understand money is becoming more active, more opportunities are associated with it. And if you can get on board, one
Money's like
guy,
Baskin Robbins now, man. You got 31 flavors, man. It's
right,
like,
right. And I always tell people, look, there's more than one way to skin a cat. If anybody says to you, this is the only way to make money or achieve financial freedom, run, because there are so many different ways to do it, and this space is just representative of that.
oh, yeah.
So, between the two of us, we've got stocks, bonds, real estate, physical gold, paper gold.
Oh, and one thing about the universal
Digital.
gold is universal gold is 100% redeemable for the physical gold as well.
That is huge.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can send it to them, and then of course you're going to pay the shipping fees and the climate control fees and all that stuff. But so the cool thing about it is you have all these assets on your Uphold. So like right now I have some gold, I have some Cardano, some XRP, whatever, and then I have USD that I put on here. So I can spend any of those assets, any of those 47 or 27, whatever the number was of those currencies, of the precious metals, the equities, all that. So I don't know how the equities would work. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Maybe not with the equities, because I think you're buying that through Link2, so that might be a little different. But everything else, it's just providing instant liquidity for you. So I don't know. I'm sure on the back end there's a conversion, a sell, and then a transfer to cash. But
sure.
I mean, you saw I posted a couple of videos. I'm at 7-Eleven getting gas. I'm at the casino seeing Bill Burr. I'm buying all my wife's drinks. We're at the slots. I did all that with my XRP card.
100% practical.
Yeah, it's everything I'm doing anyway. I'm not, and it's not a credit card. So what I do is I put my USD on the card with another debit card or a bank transfer. Bank transfer takes a couple of days to clear. So if you want to go ahead and load it, that's fine. I like to just do it on the fly. If I know I'm going to the store and I need $30, I'll send $30 over. There's no fees. It's instant. It's in your account. And then, you go pump your gas. You go to the gas station, get something to eat, whatever you're doing. And because I was one of the first 5,000 people in the XRP Army group, I got a promotional balance for the first however many months. We're getting 4% cash back in XRP. And it doesn't matter. I can spend Bitcoin. I'm going to get 4% back in XRP. I can spend USD, which is the only thing I spend. I'm not going to spend my investments. That's kind of counterintuitive to me. Our cryptocurrencies, my reason for holding them right now is for them to appreciate, not for me to spend. So but it's beautiful, man. I mean, there's a lot of people. I tell people when it comes to crypto, especially for XRP, like I'm in this for 4 to 5 digits, man.
Okay.
I'm steadfast, Stonewall type vibes. And I won't get into all that in this video because that's like an hour-long conversation in itself. Where I think the assets.
This won't be the last time we get together. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how well everybody can see this. Let me see if I can turn it. I won't be in focus that well, but I mean, I got rewards: McDonald's, Publix, Starbucks, the bar, Tower of Power at the casino, Wendy's, a bunch of 7-Eleven, Amazon. I pay my Geico bill, my cable bill, my AT&T satellite bill. And I mean, why not? You're getting, I've earned about 20 XRP in the 2 weeks I've had it. They're fluctuating between like $1 and $1.20 something right now. And I mean, when this case wraps up, pretty much a general consensus is anywhere from $10 to $30 a token. They're just being suppressed right now. So imagine if that jumps to, if I get a 30x on these rewards over the next few months, and even if you only had a couple hundred of them, I mean, that's nice for free.
Right.
No risk.
Right. No.
You're not even buying crypto. I think that's another beautiful thing about it, is for people who are interested in crypto but don't want to really invest in it. Look into some of these. This is the only one that you can use quite like this, but I mean, we all got to go get gas, man.
Exactly.
It's not a credit card either. There's no risk. You just send your cash there and then you use it. It's that. I mean, I can send cash right now, get online, type it in, it'll just go straight through. It's just like a regular card. And like you said, man, it really does. It's about the liquidity though, man, because if you look into Ripple as a company, one of their main products they sell is on-demand liquidity. And on-demand liquidity is for institutional bodies mainly to using XRP as a bridge asset and as on-demand liquidity. I don't know how much you know about like how the Nostro accounts and all that stuff work, but there's no reason to pre-fund these transfers. They normally have to pull a bunch of loans from all the other central banks and do this whole dance, which happens in probably a couple minutes. It's all electronic, but you don't have to do that anymore. You can just buy it. You basically purchase the asset. 5 seconds later, it's where it needs to go, cashed out into an exchange, sent in whatever currency they want. And this all happens in maybe 30 seconds.
Okay.
I think it was Michael Arrington. He was on there. He's a big investor in them, but he sent, I don't remember if it was 30. I think it was $30 million. He said it took 10 seconds and cost him 30 cents to do that with XRP.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were partnered with, they were with MoneyGram. They were with Western Union. They're partnered with Bank of America. It's all very like, and that's what's interesting about this lawsuit is there's this whole theory that it's just, kind of slowing things down until it's ready.
Okay.
30
million for 30 cents.
Yeah. Because the transaction fee for these digital assets doesn't matter what the transaction size is for some of them. It's still just the transaction, so it's like I think it's 1/10,000th. Each XRP is comprised of 1 million drops, and I think the fee is like 1 drop or something crazy like that, or I can't remember what it is. I don't want to like speak off, but it's very low amounts.
Fascinating stuff, fast. Man.
It's super fast.
So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that and that, like you said, with the liquidity piece, I'm huge on liquidity because I mean that what else at the end of the day are you gonna need money to do for you?
Oh yeah.
You need it right then and there.
If it's not liquid, it's not money,
Right. So it's actually why, part of the advice that we give is like we tell people, yes, there's nothing wrong with being in a position to pay off your home. Okay. But don't send $250,000 to the mortgage company because then you've got to ask someone and to get a loan or a line of credit, or you got to sell the asset if you want to get a hold of that money. So there's nothing wrong with having it somewhere where you can actually liquid, where you can actually put it into play if you need it, but don't lock it up. Always try to remain liquid.
That's one of the things that really fascinates me about decentralized finance is that if it's allowed to exist, I mean, the legacy players out there are not having a good time with this because they see the threat's very real. I mean, it's putting the power in us. And I just talked to my buddy about this. I was like, we live in a debt-based economy.
Yeah.
Which is stupid, first of all. I mean, I understand, but like it's outdated. And I do think that you could see basically a paradigm shift to an asset-based economy. And at this point, I mean, if I hold, a ton of gold at my house and you are a buddy of mine or you just know me, get in contact with me somehow and you say, okay, you've got all this gold. I need, funding basically.
Mhm.
Or maybe I'm looking at that the wrong way. Let me turn around the other way. If I have all this gold, I could essentially say, well, look, here's some gold. Let me just do this instead of saying based on my gold, you got to do this. It's
Right. I got you.
and
I got you.
like I do a lot of what they call collateralized loans, which is something that's pretty big in the crypto space. I can lock digital assets, take a loan out against them with
Mhm.
no credit check. And that's kind of what I'm saying about an asset based. Like I should be able to collateralize my assets to achieve the lifestyle I want and never have to sell them.
That more people, you're going to find more people doing exactly that as we see these tax rates go up.
Well, that's the thing, because what people don't realize is loans aren't taxable, whether you
Exactly.
give them to yourself or not. If it's a loan, you can't tax it.
Exactly. So
It's
yeah,
like,
you're going to be seeing more people doing just that. Now, I like your take on it to be able to do it with various assets.
yeah.
But yeah, you're definitely going to be seeing more of that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, I think this was a pretty decent inaugural run.
Yeah. I got to run that podcast idea by you at some point, man. It's never been anything more than blowing smoke at each other as far as me and my buddies go on
Okay.
that Facebook group, but it's something we are thinking about doing. So it's maybe more of a webcast, but same thing.
Hey, just keep me posted with it, man. I love to talk money, and
Yeah,
and
and
I love.
I'd love to have you on, man. Maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll get some bullet points of some questions that me and my subscribers have, and maybe next time we get on, I'll have you host the thing, throw it up on your channel, and I'll just come at you with some questions that we have, and maybe we can do a couple of those back and forth, kind of breaking down some processes and some strategies, because all they're hearing from me is a lot of XRP news and then a lot of TA and then some general crypto news thrown in there too. But I mean, as I told you before, I shoot real estate professionally. So
Right.
I love real estate. That's always been the quickest way to a million in my book. I think that's changing though. I
I
think
think it is changing. It is changing. But
still a
yeah,
quick way to a million though. Still a very fast way to get there.
it is. It is. But we're getting more opportunities to do it too. But to the extent that you want to collaborate like that, man, let's do it. I
All right,
mean,
man. Sounds good.
yeah. Because I think what's going to end up happening with that is we're talking to our audiences, but at the same time, we're generating ideas that
Oh
we
yeah.
can
Yeah.
actually, put into play. So yeah, I think it's great.
All right, man. Well, I
All
enjoyed
right.
it. I'm sure I'll be
Likewise.
talking to you soon anyway.
Absolutely.
You have a good night, man.
All right. You too, Adam. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care.
All righty.